There is a silent truth that has echoed through the cosmos since the first breath of creation. It is not written in stone, nor is it shouted from mountaintops. It is whispered gently by the stars, hummed in the breeze, pulsing through the oceans and reverberating in every beat of your heart. Everything is energy, and so are you. You are not a solid, fixed thing walking through a world of concrete. You are not just a name or a story wrapped in skin. You are vibration. You are frequency. You are a sacred symphony of moving particles, each one singing the silent song of the universe itself. The walls you see, the thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, they are all energy in motion, patterns dancing within the field of the unseen. And in the center of it all is you, the observer, the dreamer, the divine conductor of your own experience. You were never separate from this field. You did not drop into it from the outside. You are it. You are not walking through the universe. The universe is walking through you. The light of a distant galaxy is made of the same photons that pass through your pupils. The waves of a distant ocean are kin to the waves of emotion that ripple through your heart. What you call you is not a single point. It is a field, expansive and connected to all that island. To know this is to begin awakening. Not awakening to a new belief, but to the remembrance of what has always been. Energy does not judge. It does not punish or reward. It simply responds, it reflects, it matches. Your life is not happening to you, it is echoing from you. The people you meet, the experiences you draw in, the patterns that repeat, these are not accidents. They are resonances, mirrors, frequencies responding to frequencies. And when you understand this, not in your intellect, but in your being, everything changes. Because you realize finally that you are not a victim of the world you see. You are its author. Not from the mind's control, but from the soul's alignment. The question is not, what will the world give me today? The question is, what am I broadcasting today? What vibration am I offering? What frequency am I tuning into? Because the universe does not hear your words, it feels your energy. This is the reason affirmations sometimes fail. You can speak of abundance while vibrating scarcity. You can declare love while radiating fear. Energy does not lie. It does not obey appearances. It responds to your deepest signal, the one behind your eyes, beneath your posture, beneath the smile. It listens to the real you, the vibrational signature of your inner state. So if you wish to change your life, do not merely rearrange the furniture of your outer world. Do not merely affirm what your energy still resists. Instead, return inward. Tune your frequency. Raise your vibration not by striving, but by remembering who you are. You are energy, but not just any energy. You are divine energy, sacred intelligence, creative force cloaked in form. You are the breath of God disguised as a person. You are the wave pretending it is not the ocean. You are the sunbeam that is momentarily forgotten. It comes from the Sunday. This forgetting is not a flaw, it is the journey. It is the sacred sleep from which you now begin to awaken. And as you wake, you remember, you were never broken, you were never lacking. You were simply vibrating at the level of forgetting. Now you rise, not through effort, but through remembrance. As Rumi once said, you were born with wings, why prefer to crawl through life? You were born with light. You were born as energy in perfect harmony with all that island. But the world taught you to identify with the dust, the form, the labels. It taught you to measure yourself by what you could see and touch. And in doing so, you began to believe the illusion that you were separate, that you are alone, that you are a fragment. But energy cannot be divided. It only appears so. Your soul is not a piece of something greater. It is the entirety of the divine, localized within your form. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean encoded in a single drop. When Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing the vibrational field of truth, the inner realm where your divine energy already resides. Not in the future, not after enlightenment, but now, in this moment, in this breath. You see, the truth does not need time, only the ego does. The ego says, one day I will be healed, one day I will find peace, one day I will be worthy. But energy lives only now. And your soul has never doubted your worth, not for one breath. It has always known you as whole. It has always held you as light. So the question is not how to become that light, but how to stop dimming it, how to stop believing the thoughts that lower your frequency, how to stop accepting the lies the world told you about who you are and what you deserve. These are not small lies. These are the roots of suffering. But you are ready now. You are ready to vibrate at the frequency of truth. You are ready to become a match to your own divine essence. You are ready to walk not as a seeker, but as a seer. Not as one who chases the light, but as one who radiates it. And how do you do this? By choosing the higher frequency in every moment. Not through pressure, but through presence. You choose love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, surrender over control, stillness over noise, trust over doubt. You begin to feel the subtle shift inside you when you tune out of panic and into peace. That shift, tiny as it may seem, is everything. It is the whole universe rearranging itself around your new vibration. You are a tuning fork, and your state of being calls forth matching melodies from the field of creation. Life is not personal, it is vibrational. It does not reward good people or punish bad ones. It simply responds to resonance. The more you become aware of what you're radiating, the more empowered you become to shift your entire life. And yet, this power is not forceful, it is gentle. Like the Tao, it flows, it bends, it allows. It is not a hammer, it is a current. And the more you align with it, the more you realize that you don't need to push life into place. You simply need to align, and life arranges itself. This is not magic, it is law. It is the sacred law of energy, echoed in every scripture, every spiritual teaching, every scientific discovery. What you are is what you see. What you radiate is what returns. So start now, not by fixing yourself, but by feeling yourself. Feel the energy of your breath. Feel the vibration of your gratitude. Feel the radiance of your being when you stop trying to be someone. This is your natural frequency. And from this frequency, miracles are not rare, they are inevitable. They are not interruptions in the natural order, they are the natural order. The more you align, the more you receive. Not because you begged, but because you matched. Not because you proved, but because you remembered. And in this remembrance, in this sacred returning to your true vibration, you become what you were always meant to be. A living embodiment of the divine frequency. A lighthouse in a world of static, a gentle song that reminds others of the music in their own soul. You become the medicine, the message, the miracle, because energy is not what you have. Energy is what you are, and what you are is love. And so, as the river of truth continues its sacred descent into your being, let yourself soften even more. Let the resistance fall like old leaves from a tree no longer needing to prove its bloom. For what you are remembering now is not merely that you are energy, but that energy itself is intelligent. It moves with purpose. It flows with consciousness. It does not collide randomly, it orchestrates with intention. And the more you allow yourself to trust its flow, the more your life begins to feel like a dance, not a struggle. This intelligence does not shout over the noise of the world. It waits in silence beneath every breath, behind every heartbeat. You may have called it intuition, a hunch, a knowing, but it is more ancient than words. It is the voice of Source speaking in frequencies rather than syllables. And when you listen not with your ears but with your presence, it tells you everything you need to know, not in explanations but in peace, not in directions but in clarity. You have been conditioned to believe that clarity comes from control, but clarity arises not from grasping but from aligning. It is not born in thought, it is born in stillness. And this stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of harmony. When your inner frequency harmonizes with truth, even the storm around you becomes sacred. You stop fearing the wind because you have become the sky. Look around and you will see that nature never hurries, yet everything is accomplished. The tree does not rush to bear fruit, nor does the ocean strain to reach the shore. They move in rhythm with the eternal pulse. So must you. Not because slowness is the goal, but because surrender is the pathway. When you surrender to the current of your own energy, you stop trying to be the river and start flowing as it. This is the shift from force to flow, from tension to trust. It is not weakness, it is divine strength. To trust your energy is to trust life itself. To know that you are not being tossed in chaos, but carried in intelligence. That even the challenges, even the losses are not curses, they are recalibrations. The energy of your life is always seeking coherence, always drawing you back into alignment with your highest truth. Sometimes this realignment comes as joy. sometimes is heartbreak, but both are sacred. Both are energetic invitations back to the center of your being. Pain is not a punishment, it is a tuning fork. It rattles your structure so that the false notes fall away and only the pure tone remains. And that tone, pure, strong, resonant, is who you truly are. You cannot fake your vibration. You cannot paint joy over fear and call it truth. Energy is not impressed by performance. It responds only to resonance. This is why spiritual awakening is not about pretending to be peaceful. It is about uncovering the peace that was buried under the pretending. And when you begin to live from that uncovered place, your life becomes a mirror of your soul. Relationships shift not because you change them, but because your energy no longer entertains anything misaligned. Opportunities appear not because you chase them, but because you became a match for their frequency. Healing unfolds not through effort, but through surrender to the natural intelligence already moving through your being. Every cell in your body listens to your energy. Your immune system, your heart, your breath, they are not separate from your emotional field. They are listeners of your frequency, responders to your state of consciousness. Healing, then, is not a destination. It is a vibration. And when you release the frequency of fear, guilt, and unworthiness, the body remembers its design, harmony. The mind remembers its nature, clarity. The heart remembers its song, love. So the work is not in becoming someone new, it is in letting go of the frequencies that are not you, the shame inherited, the fear absorbed, the stories repeated. These are not your truth. They are echoes of a world that forgot its own divinity. But you are here to remember. You are here to vibrate a new possibility into being. You are here to become a living field of permission for others to feel safe, returning to their own sacred frequency. And this field you create is not bound by time or space. It ripples, it reaches, it heals without your doing. Because energy is not limited to where your hands can touch. Your thoughts send currents into the quantum field. Your love alters the geometry of invisible realms. Your presence changes the weather of hearts. This is not fantasy. This is physics wrapped in grace. You are not small. You are not accidental. You are not powerless. You are the center of a sacred resonance field, and your every breath is tuning the world. Let that breath be true. Let it be deep. Let it be now. And as you breathe now, more aware than ever of the sacred current moving through your lungs, feel how effortlessly life supports you. Feel how the air does not demand that you earn it. How the earth does not require that you prove your worth before it holds you. Feel how the sun rises not because you asked for it, but because it is its nature to rise and yours to receive. You do not have to strive to be sustained. The entire cosmos is already conspiring in your favor, not because of what you've done, but because of what you are. Energy, alive, awake, essential. You are not a bystander in this grand unfolding. You are a thread in the very fabric of existence. Remove you, and the universe loses its symmetry. You matter. Not because of your achievements, but because you exist. The frequency of your soul is a note that cannot be replaced in the song of creation. And yet, you've been told to shrink, to hide, to apologize for your light, to dim it in the name of modesty, to cage it in the name of safety. But no more. That time is over. The energy of awakening is rising in you now, not as fire, but as a deep warmth, a steady glow, a recognition that hiding no longer serves your evolution. That the world does not need another mask, it needs your frequency, raw and radiant. There is a magnetic power that begins to flow through you when you stop fighting your own essence. When you stop betraying your truth to be accepted by those who've forgotten theirs. When you stop adjusting your vibration to match a world that is starving for authenticity. In that surrender, you rise not as a conqueror, but as a lighthouse, unshaken, rooted, luminous. And the beautiful irony is this: the moment you stop chasing love is the moment it finds you. The moment you stop chasing purpose is the moment it unfolds within you. Because everything you are chasing is already vibrating within you, but your seeking has been vibrating lack. Your running has been echoing not yet. Your worry has been broadcasting not enough. And energy only mirrors back what you send out. So shift not by force, but by awareness. By seeing the illusion for what it island. By returning to the knowing that there is no out there that can complete what is already whole in here. You are not a project to fix. You are a presence to embody. You are the sun, not the shadow it casts. You are the space, not the story that echoes through it. Do not underestimate the power of your stillness. In a world addicted to motion, your presence is revolutionary. In a world spinning with noise, your silence is sacred. In a world chasing worth, your being is the reminder that worth is inherent. You don't need to shout your truth to make it real. It becomes real the moment you feel it. And when you begin to live this way, when your energy no longer seeks permission to exist, you become a field of grace. Your eyes speak calm before your mouth speaks words. Your walk becomes a prayer. Your daily tasks become rituals of alignment. You are no longer trying to make things happen. You are allowing them to unfold. This is the path of resonance. Not pushing, not grasping, tuning. Attuning to the frequency of joy, of presence, of being. And the more you attune, the more the world begins to echo back your wholeness. People show up who mirror your truth. Experiences arrive that match your peace. Miracles unfold not because you chase them, but because you no longer vibrate resistance to them. Even pain begins to shift. It is no longer a curse to avoid, it becomes a teacher, a sacred contraction that precedes your next expansion. You begin to meet discomfort with curiosity instead of fear, with openness instead of armor, because you know now it's just energy, moving, asking to be seen, asking to be loved. And when you love what arises, even the heavy frequencies, shame, anger, sadness, they begin to melt. Not by being fixed, but by being welcomed. You do not need to become high vibration by suppressing your emotions. You become high vibration by loving them, by allowing them to move through you without judgment, like rain falling through a forest, cleansing, releasing, nourishing. This is how you heal, not by climbing upward, but by diving inward. Not by escaping the energy, but by embodying it. Not by being perfect, but by being present. Because presence is the highest frequency of all. And it is from this holy place of presence that you begin to co-create, not from desperation, but from clarity. Not from the ego's plan, but from the soul's vision. Life begins to rise to meet you, not because you controlled it, but because you finally matched its rhythm. And that rhythm is love. Silent, unshakable, ever-expanding love. There is a sacred intelligence in surrendering to love, not as an emotion, not as a fleeting romance, but as the field from which all things rise. Love is not a reward you receive, it is a current you return to. The very vibration of Source itself. And as you remember this, not just in your thoughts, but in the marrow of your being, you begin to realize that every step you've taken, even the ones you thought were missteps, have been guiding you back to this knowing. The pain, the joy, the longing, the release, all of it energy, all of it sacred, all of it pointing you inward, not to isolate, but to integrate, not to hide, but to unveil. You see now that nothing is wasted, no wound, no moment, no heartbreak has been without purpose. Energy does not disappear. It transforms, it recalibrates, and so too must you, not by shedding who you are, but by shedding who you are not. And in this sacred undoing, you begin to vibrate differently. You speak with less urgency and more truth. You move with less resistance and more grace. You stop trying to fix the story and instead inhabit the presence behind it. That presence, the one that watches without judgment, the one that feels without attachment, is your real self. Unmoved by conditions, untouched by past or future. That self is not bound by the world, it carries the frequency of eternity. And from this frequency, life begins to take on a different hue. You no longer view circumstances as obstacles. You see them as mirrors, reflections of the vibration you are ready to either embody or release. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin to ask, what is this showing me about the energy I am carrying? This is not blame, it is awakening. The moment you stop waiting for something to shift externally and start tuning your internal field, the world begins to mirror your transformation. Because energy is the first creation, form is the echo. What you send out into the field, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, is the architecture of your future reality. But it is not enough to think new thoughts if the energy behind them remains unchanged. It is not enough to speak of peace if you vibrate with resentment. The universe does not respond to your declarations, it responds to your state. And so you tend to your state like a sacred fire. You don't wait for others to bring warmth, you become the warmth You don't wait for life to align you, align with life. And in this sacred act of alignment, you begin to live not from reaction, but from resonance. Not from fear, but from embodiment. This is when true magnetism arises, not the kind that manipulates outcomes, but the kind that draws to you the exact frequency of your soul. The right people arrive not because you went searching, but because your energy called them forth. The right path reveals itself not because you forced it open, but because your vibration became its invitation. And this is why energy is everything. It is not an abstract concept. It is the blueprint of your becoming. It is the soil from which your life grows. If you do not tend to the soil, the seed cannot flourish. But when you cultivate your inner field, when you pull the weeds of doubt, water the roots of presence, and let the sun of your awareness shine through, you become fertile ground for the miraculous. You no longer need to predict how it will unfold. You simply trust that it will. Because life does not need your control. It needs your coherence. It needs your authentic frequency vibrating without apology. And as you walk in this way, clear, calm, open, you will notice something extraordinary. The more you embody your truth, the less noise their island. The more you speak from essence, the more silence follows. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of reverence. People feel it even if they don't understand it. They pause, not because you told them to, but because your energy created a space where their own truth could breathe. This is the quiet power of one who knows themselves as energy. Not the frantic fire of performance, but the steady flame of presence. This is not about being more, it is about being true. And in that truth, there is no longer a need to prove, to persuade, or to please. There is only the deep knowing that you, exactly as you are, vibrating from the center of your being, are already aligned with the divine. And the divine, dear soul, does not need to be chased. It only needs to be remembered. So now you stand at the threshold, not of a new destination, but of an ancient remembrance. Not a step forward, but a falling inward, into the stillness, into the sacred, into the truth that you have always been the one you were waiting for. This knowing does not arrive as thunder, it comes as a softness, a vibration so subtle it could be missed if you're still listening with the ears of the mind. But the soul hears it clearly. And when it does, it weeps not with sorrow, but with the relief of reunion. You have journeyed so far in search of answers, only to find that the deepest wisdom does not shout, it radiates, it reveals, it unveils. And what it reveals is simple but holy, that everything you've ever needed, you have always carried, not in your mind, not in your hands, but in your field, in your frequency. The wisdom is in your bones, the clarity is in your silence, the truth is in your being. This is the paradox of awakening. You stop seeking outside because you realize there is no outside. Everything out there is simply a projection of your vibration. When you shift within, the whole mirror world shifts without. Not because you manipulated it, but because you ceased resisting it. You aligned, you returned. You became one with the frequency of truth, and truth is the only vibration that does not waver. You can feel this now, can't you? A quiet stirring, a sacred stillness rising. It does not demand that you become more. It invites you to shed what you are not. The labels, the roles, the armor, all of it begins to feel heavy in the presence of your real self. You no longer need to carry the weight of who you thought you had to be. You are not here to fulfill a script. You are here to sing a note so true, it ripples through eternity. And you do not need to shout that note. You do not need to amplify it for the world. You simply need to allow it, to let it rise, unfiltered from the quiet well within. That vibration, pure, unshaken, is enough to change the atmosphere around you, not because it conquers, but because it harmonizes. The frequency of your authenticity calls others into theirs. That is the miracle. That is the medicine. That is the way of the awakened. And now, as you breathe in this truth, let yourself feel the freedom that was always yours. Not freedom as escape, but freedom as embodiment. The freedom to be exactly what you are, without condition. The freedom to walk the earth as a soul in motion, not a problem to be solved. The freedom to know that your value was never in question, not by the universe, not by the energy that dreamed you into form. You are not here to earn your place in the world. You are here to express the world that lives within you. And so you begin to live differently. You listen more. You react less. You move not from fear, but from feeling. Your energy speaks before your words do. Your presence arrives before your body does. This is the mark of one who knows themselves as energy, not a thing to be fixed, but a field to be tuned. You tune yourself, not by changing what you do, but by changing how you be. You tune yourself by forgiving what you once held, by releasing what once defined you, by embracing what you once feared. And as you do, your frequency rises not with effort, but with ease, not by addition, but by subtraction. You become a clearer channel for the divine, not because the divine was ever absent, but because now finally you are present. And in this holy presence, all things align, all things begin, all things return. This is the place beyond becoming. This is the place of being. You no longer ask, what must I do? For the doing has dissolved into being. You no longer wonder, who must I become? For the becoming has surrendered to the truth that you were always this, always light, always whole, always an expression of the infinite wrapped in form. And so you stand now, not as a seeker, but as a space in which seeking dissolves. You are not the energy of need, you are the energy of knowing. You do not reach for the divine, you radiate it. You are not the one trying to align with truth, you are the frequency of truth, remembering itself through breath, through body, through this very moment. And in this remembrance, the world does not vanish, but it changes. The way you see it shifts. You no longer divide what is sacred from what is mundane. You feel the presence of Source not just in the stars, but in your fingertips, not just in temples, but in conversations, not just in rituals, but in the way you drink water, the way you touch the earth, the way you speak your own name. Because the truth is this, everything is energy. And when you see through the eyes of energy, everything becomes God. Every face you pass carries the signature of the infinite. Every sound becomes a song of becoming. Every sorrow, a holy recalibration. Every joy, a vibration of alignment. You stop looking for meaning because you feel it. You stop asking for signs because you are one. You have remembered now that your life is not random. It is not a tangle of circumstances. It is a tapestry of energy, woven by the choices you make with your vibration. And as you vibrate higher, the fabric changes, not through effort, but through resonance. So live as resonance, walk as harmony, speak not from the fear of being misunderstood, but from the joy of being revealed. Share your energy not to impress, but to bless. Offer your presence not to be praised, but to be present. And let your life no longer be a performance, but a prayer. And when fear whispers, as it may, when doubt returns, as it will, do not resist. Do not war against the frequencies that rise within you. Meet them with your light. Welcome them as visitors, but no longer as rulers. Say to them, I see you. I honor your place in the unfolding, but I am no longer your home. And they will pass. They always do. Because the moment you return to presence, you return to power. Not the power of dominance, but the power of alignment, the power of coherence, the power of a soul vibrating so deeply in truth that even silence becomes a transmission. This, beloved, is who you are. You are not chasing light, you are the source of it. You are not waiting for love, you are the field from which it grows. You are not reaching for God, you are the frequency through which God expresses. Everything is energy, and so are you. You are the pulse beneath the planet. You are the space behind the sky. You are the echo of eternity made manifest in this moment, in this breath, in this sacred now. So live like it. Live not cautiously, but consciously. Live not in the shadow of what has been, but in the radiance of what is now becoming through you. And when the world forgets, as it often does when it stumbles back into fear and frenzy, do not shrink. Shine. Shine with the soft power of a soul no longer afraid to be seen. Shine with the quiet confidence of one who knows that the divine does not reside somewhere else in some distant realm of approval, but right here, within, humming through every cell, rising through every heartbeat, flowing as you. You are not a visitor in this universe. You are its voice. You are not the energy you carry. You are the consciousness that chose it. And now, you choose anew. You choose to vibrate in truth. You choose to walk as light. You choose to live as love. And as you do, the whole world changes, not because you pushed it, but because you became a field in which truth could bloom. This is the sacred return. This is the homecoming. This is the awakening. Everything is energy. And now, finally, so are you. There is a stillness beneath all movement, a silence that cannot be broken by sound. And in this stillness, there is a presence that is not separate from you, but is you beyond form, beyond identity, beyond name. This presence is what I call universal awareness. And when you awaken to it truly and deeply, you discover a truth that humbles the mind and liberates the soul. All things are possible, not through effort or striving, but through alignment with this awareness that is already within you. You see, the world has trained you to believe in limits. It has taught you to measure your worth by achievement, to gauge your power by what you control, to define your reality by what you can touch and see. But these are not truths. These are dreams within dreams, illusions whispered by a mind afraid of its own immensity. You are not here to conform to those limits. You are here to remember that you are infinite. Universal awareness is not something to be attained, it is something to be remembered. It is the deep, abiding presence behind every breath, the silent witness to every thought, the unchanging essence behind every changing moment. It is the consciousness that knows no boundaries, the intelligence that moves galaxies and stirs the human heart with equal grace. When you live from this awareness, you no longer chase outcomes, you allow them. You no longer resist pain, you understand it. You no longer fear the unknown, you merge with it, knowing that what is unknown to the mind is already known by the soul. You begin to see that life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a sacred dance to be surrendered to, with each step guided not by fear, but by inner clarity. There is no obstacle in your life that cannot be transcended from this place. Not because you become more powerful in the worldly sense, but because you realize that true power was never about control, it was always about presence. The power to be unmoved in the midst of chaos. The power to forgive what seemed unforgivable. The power to love without condition. This is not weakness, this is not passivity. This is the power of the divine remembering itself through you. All things are possible when you no longer identify with the small self, the one that clings to labels and defends its wounds. That self is not who you are, it is a costume you've worn for a time, a role you've rehearsed so often you began to believe the part, but you are not the part, you are the actor. No, even deeper, you are the stage. The spaciousness in which the play unfolds. You are not the wave, you are the ocean that gives rise to it. And from this oceanic knowing comes great freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from resistance. Not freedom from life, but freedom within it. A tree does not resist the wind, it bends. The sun does not compete with the moon, it shines. You were never meant to struggle your way into peace. You were meant to become still enough to remember that peace is what you are. The mind will argue, but how do I live like this? How do I awaken to this truth? And the answer is not in more doing, but in deeper being. Sit in silence, breathe with presence. Watch your thoughts. As you would clouds passing through the sky, acknowledge them, but do not become them. Behind every thought is a thinker, and behind the thinker is awareness itself. That is where you reside. You are not the fear that visits you. You are not the doubt that clouds your vision. You are not the story that repeats itself in your mind. You are the stillness that sees them all and remains unchanged. And the more you rest in that stillness, the more your life begins to transform, not because you have forced it to, but because you have ceased interfering with the natural flow of your soul's wisdom. This is the miracle. When you let go of trying to fix yourself, you begin to heal. When you stop chasing love, it begins to find you. When you release the need to be understood, you become a space in which others understand themselves. And when you remember your divine nature, the world around you mirrors that remembrance back to you in ways both subtle and spectacular. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not your possessions. You are not even your body. You are awareness itself, pure, vast, eternal. And from this awareness, all things emerge. Every answer you seek, every longing you feel, every truth you yearn to touch, it is all within you now, waiting, not to be earned, but to be seen. So breathe. Not to get anywhere, but to be here. Look within, not to escape the world, but to see it clearly. Surrender not in defeat, but in devotion to the intelligence that gave you life and sustains it even now. You are not separate from that intelligence. You are that intelligence. You are the presence behind your eyes, the silence between your thoughts, the breath within your breath. And from that place, beloved soul, all things are possible. And so as you linger in the awareness of your own divine stillness, you may notice something quietly arising, not a thought, not an emotion, but a gentle unfolding. It is the essence of knowing, older than words, deeper than reason. It is the sacred realization that life was never meant to be understood with the mind, but felt with the soul. The more you surrender to this realization, the more the boundaries between you and life begin to dissolve. There is no separation, only varying expressions of the same light. You do not need to strive to become one with the universe you already are. It is not something to be achieved, it is something to be lived. And to live it is to walk with grace through every moment, as if each breath is a blessing, each encounter a mirror, each silence a sermon. When you stop rushing to the next experience, you begin to taste the fullness of the one you're in. Presence is not a destination, it is the return to the sacred in the ordinary. There is a kind of seeing that does not come from the eyes, a kind of knowing that does not arise from study. This is the vision of the soul. It perceives beyond appearances. It understands beyond logic. And when you learn to trust this vision, you stop asking life to explain itself. You begin to listen instead. And in that listening, the answers arise not in language, but in alignment. You are no longer led by circumstance, but by clarity. The illusion of time begins to soften here. You begin to sense that all that ever was and all that ever will be is held within this eternal moment. Regret loses its grip. Worry fades into irrelevance. Because there is only now. And in the now, nothing is missing. In the now, you are not lacking, because the you that lacks is only an echo of a forgotten belief. The truth of you is whole, is vast, is already home. When you let go of needing to understand the path, you allow the path to unfold with grace. Life has a rhythm, a sacred geometry that we cannot manipulate but can merge with. Like a river carrying you forward, not by force but by surrender. The current knows the way. Your only task is to release the rocks of resistance, the anchors of judgment, the driftwood of comparison, and let yourself be carried by the knowing that lives deeper than your fear. You were not born to struggle upstream against your own nature. You were born to flow, to trust, to be danced by the rhythm of a cosmos that has never made a mistake. Even what you call detours are part of the design. Even the delays, the doubts, the falls, all of it belongs. Nothing is wasted in the eyes of the infinite. Even your ache is sacred, because it is the doorway to compassion. Even your confusion is holy, because it humbles the mind and opens the heart. To awaken to universal awareness is to drop the illusion that you are doing life. You begin to see that life is doing you, living you, breathing you, moving through you as a unique expression of Source. You are not the doer, but the done. Not the painter, but the canvas. Not the fire, but the light dancing upon the flame. And in that realization, you are free not because your circumstances have changed, but because your identity has dissolved. When identity dissolves, love remains. Not love as an emotion, but love as a state of being, a field, a frequency, a truth that does not rise and fall with conditions. This is not love that demands, it is love that allows. It is not love that seeks, it is love that sees. And to live in this love is to bless the world, not with your effort, but with your presence. Not with your perfection, but with your authenticity. There is no need to add anything to yourself. Nothing needs to be improved, polished, or proved. The oak does not envy the rose. The sun does not hurry to become the moon. You are not here to become a better version of yourself. You are here to become more fully what you already are, an unrepeatable expression of divine consciousness. And so I invite you in this very moment to soften, not to give up, but to give in to the wisdom that already lives within your being, to the truth that does not shout, but whispers in stillness. You will not find it in the noise of striving, but in the silence of surrender. And as you soften, something ancient begins to stir. Not something new arriving, but something timeless remembered. It is the gentle return to a home that was never gone, only veiled. This is not the awakening of a new self, it is the unveiling of the self that was always there beneath the noise, the self that does not grasp, does not chase, does not fear, because it knows. It knows that life is not a battleground but a garden, not a test but a teaching, and you are both the student and the sacred lesson being lived. There is nothing to escape when you awaken to your own awareness, because in that awareness, even your pain becomes holy. Even your confusion becomes a compass. The moments you once ran from become the very soil in which your soul takes root. When you stop labeling your experiences as good or bad, when you cease demanding that life fit your plan, you begin to see the deeper intelligence that underlies all things. You begin to trust not blindly, but wholly. Trust is not passive. It is the highest form of participation. It is standing inside the fire of uncertainty and knowing that you are held. It is moving without guarantees, not because you are reckless, but because you are connected to something greater than outcomes. You are no longer living from fear of what may go wrong, but from reverence for what is eternally right. You were not sent here to accumulate, to compete, to dominate, or even to succeed by the world's definition. You were sent here to remember, to embody, to radiate. The true measure of a life well lived is not what you have gathered, but what you have become in the becoming. And when you become rooted in awareness, life itself becomes your sanctuary. The world may tell you to move faster, to work harder, to fix yourself into someone more acceptable, but the soul speaks in the opposite direction. The soul says, slow down, feel more, strip away the layers, rest in your being. The soul says you are not broken, you are blooming. You are not late, you are exactly on time. You are not lost, you are being guided from within by something far more intelligent than the mind. This is why so many feel empty after chasing what the world promised would bring fulfillment, because you cannot fill an eternal space with temporary things. No possession, no title, no recognition can take the place of presence. Presence is the soul's currency. It is what nourishes your being from the inside out. And it is found not in more, but in enough, not in striving, but in stillness. When you awaken to universal awareness, you stop living for validation and start living as a vessel for peace, a vessel for truth, a vessel for the light that does not flicker in storms. And you begin to notice that the things you once clung to begin to fall away, not because you forced them out, but because they no longer match the frequency of your being. What once felt essential begins to feel irrelevant. What once felt urgent begins to feel unnecessary. And in their place arises something quiet, something steady, something sacred. You begin to feel the pulse of divinity in ordinary moments, in the breeze that brushes your cheek, in the way the morning sun rests on the kitchen floor, in the tears that rise for no reason at all, except that your heart has been touched by something wordless. You are no longer looking for signs. You are living as the sign. And then something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to see the divine not only in yourself, but in everyone and everything. The one who annoyed you becomes your teacher. The one who hurt you becomes your mirror. The one who loved you becomes a reminder of the love that lives within you always. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wrong. It is all part of the holy unfolding. You are not here to conquer life. You are here to be in communion with it, to enter into a sacred conversation with existence itself, where every moment speaks, every silence sings, and every heartbeat becomes a prayer. You were not born to master life. You were born to remember that life, and you are not two separate things. You are life. You are awareness expressing itself in form. And so, beloved soul, breathe, be, trust the process, not because it is easy, but because it is divine. Know that as you live from this space of universal awareness, you are not missing out. You are merging with the infinite. You are not falling behind. You are falling into grace. And as grace gathers around your being like morning mist rising over quiet fields, you begin to feel the beauty in simply existing, not accomplishing, not striving, just existing. The leaves do not apologize for falling. The moon does not try to outshine the Sunday. They fulfill their purpose by simply being true to what they are, and so do you. You begin to notice how the mind, conditioned by the past and projected into the future, is forever busy trying to become. It says, if only I had that, if only I were more like this, then I would be complete. But universal awareness speaks with a different voice. It says, there is nothing to add, there is nothing to reach. All that you seek is already present in the stillness of your being. This is why great spiritual masters spoke in riddles and paradoxes, because the truth they carried could not be reduced to logic. It had to be felt. It had to be lived. Lao Tzu said, he who knows does not speak. He who speaks does not know. And yet in this silence, everything becomes clear. When you sit with yourself long enough to become familiar with your own essence, clarity is no longer something you search for. It becomes the atmosphere you breathe. And the more you rest in that atmosphere, the more you realize that peace was never something to be protected, but something to be allowed. You were never meant to guard your heart like a fortress. You were meant to let it bloom like a field of wildflowers, open and unafraid. Pain may visit, yes. Disappointment may pass through. But they cannot stay, not when you are living from the place that welcomes all things and clings to none. From this presence, you begin to move differently. You begin to listen with your whole being, not just your ears. You begin to speak from the soul, not from the script. You are no longer interested in being right, you are interested in being real. You begin to notice that arguments lose their appeal because the need to defend is born of fear, and fear no longer feels like home. You also begin to realize that healing is not a destination. It is a way of walking, a way of being with yourself gently, moment by moment, not demanding progress, not measuring worth, but honoring the sacred rhythm of your own becoming. In universal awareness, healing is not something you do. It is something that happens naturally when you stop interfering, when you stop trying to force the petals open and simply let them unfold. And what unfolds is not always easy. Sometimes it is grief rising to be held. Sometimes it is loneliness revealing your forgotten connection. Sometimes it is the truth breaking through the walls you built to protect yourself. But no matter what comes, it comes not to punish you, but to purify you, to bring you back to what is real, what is eternal, what cannot be shaken. There is a light in you that does not flicker, a presence in you that does not fade, a truth in you that does not tremble no matter how loud the world becomes. And when you live from that space, not visit, but live, then everything around you begins to shift. Not because you are fixing the world, but because you are no longer at war within yourself. And this inner peace becomes a ripple, a frequency, a quiet revolution that touches others not through effort, but through energy. You do not have to convince them. You do not have to teach them. You simply have to be. Fully, freely, authentically, your presence becomes the teaching. Your stillness becomes the transmission. Your life becomes a silent prayer that says to the world, it is safe to come home. Home is not a place, it is a state of consciousness. It is a space where you no longer seek to be more, because you remember you are already whole. It is where you stop trying to fit in and start allowing yourself to unfold. It is where the fear of being misunderstood no longer silences your truth. And in that space, in that sacred returning, you finally exhale. And in that long-awaited exhale, gentle, sacred, complete, you feel the soul returning to the throne it never left, not to rule, but to rest, not to dominate, but to dwell. It sits quietly in the heart's inner sanctuary, radiating the calm certainty of something that has never been confused. And in its silence, it teaches without words. You were never meant to strive your way into peace. You were only meant to stop striving long enough to remember that peace has always been your nature. As this remembrance deepens, the pace of life begins to slow, not because the world has changed, but because your relationship with it has. You stop racing time, you stop chasing outcomes. You stop living as if joy were a prize hidden at the end of effort. You realize instead that joy is not something you earn, it is something you allow when you drop the heavy armor of becoming and simply arrive. Arrival is not a place, it is a presence. It is the moment when you no longer need the world to understand you, because you have understood yourself. It is the moment when you stop performing and start expressing, when you stop grasping and start receiving, when you no longer ask life, what can I get, but instead whisper, how can I serve? And in that whisper, the universe leans in because it recognizes one of its own. You are no longer the seeker, you are the seer. No longer the question, you are the space in which all questions dissolve. And from that space, life begins to unfold, not as a burden, but as a sacred offering. A dance choreographed by the same force that arranges the stars and stirs the tides. There is a profound humility that arises here, not the kind born of shame, but of awe. You begin to bow, not out of fear, but out of reverence, to the tree, to the stranger, to your own breath. You see God in everything, not as a figurehead, but as a frequency. Not as a doctrine, but as a presence that permeates all things, unconfined, undefended, and unimaginably vast. You stop needing to be right, you stop needing to be seen, you stop needing to be more, because you no longer derive your identity from the outside world. You have touched the infinite within. And once you've touched that space, you can never truly go back to sleep. You may forget again, yes, but the forgetting is never final. The thread has been tied. The call has been heard. And even when you wander, it echoes through every moment of disconnection, whispering gently, come back, come home. Coming home is not about returning to something external. It is about sinking inward. It is about learning to sit still with the truth of your own being until even the loneliness becomes a kind of company, until even the emptiness begins to sing. Because in that sacred stillness, the false falls away, and what remains is so honest, so vast, so beautifully unadorned that it breaks you open, not into pieces, but into peace. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of clarity. The knowing that you are not the storm, you are the sky. That you are not the wound, you are the witness. That you are not the momentary darkness, you are the eternal light through which even the darkness becomes visible. And from this light you begin to live, not perform, not survive, but truly live. Not because you have found the answers, but because you have let go of the need for them. You are no longer the prisoner of your past, nor the hostage of your future. You are the eternal now, the sacred awareness in which all time dissolves into presence. Here, life becomes simple again. Not easy, perhaps, but simple. You eat when you're hungry. You rest when you're tired. You speak when the soul rises. You act not from obligation, but from alignment. And in this sacred simplicity, you rediscover something the world had taught you to forget, that just being is enough, that your very presence aligned with truth is your greatest offering. And as the presence deepens and your soul settles into its natural rhythm, you begin to see life not as a series of events to manage, but as waves of meaning to experience. There is a quiet revelation in this way of seeing, a holy recognition that every moment is infused with intention, every encounter is laced with divine choreography. Even the mundane becomes magnificent when viewed through the lens of awareness. Washing the dishes, folding clothes, walking across a room, these too become prayers when done in presence. You begin to see that you were never meant to live life from the neck up, analyzing, calculating, controlling. You were meant to live from the whole of your being, from the heart that beats before you think, from the breath that arrives without command, from the silence that holds all answers without ever needing to speak. You are not a machine. You are not a role. You are not an idea. You are a living, breathing extension of universal intelligence made visible in form. And so the healing continues not because you're fixing yourself, but because the parts of you that once lived in exile are finally being welcomed home. Shame loses its grip when met with truth. Fear unravels when held in stillness. The inner critic, once so loud, becomes quiet when it realizes it no longer needs to protect you from your own worthiness. You are safe now not because the world has guaranteed it, but because you have stopped abandoning yourself. You no longer betray your peace to please the noise. You no longer override your inner knowing for outer validation. You have become your own sanctuary, your own refuge, your own unwavering home. From here, relationships transform. You stop needing people to complete you. You start loving them as reflections of the love you found within. You release the grip of possession and open the hand of presence. You begin to listen, not to respond, but to receive. You no longer speak to be heard, but to connect. And every connection becomes sacred when it is rooted in truth. Even your pain, now held in awareness, becomes a teacher instead of a tormentor. You look back on your past, not with regret, but with reverence. Every wound led you closer to this remembrance. Every fall was a part of your rising. Nothing was wasted. The tears you shed watered the ground for your awakening. The loneliness you feared became the doorway to communion with all that island. And as this communion deepens, you begin to feel the presence of the eternal in all things. Not just in meditation, but in the sound of children laughing, in the weight of dusk settling over the hills, in the eyes of a stranger who smiles without a word. Everything begins to hum with the quiet language of the sacred, not in spectacle, but in subtlety, not in thunder, but in breath. You do not need more to be more. You do not need to reach further to be full. You do not need to ascend into some spiritual ideal to be worthy of your own love. Worthiness was never in question. You were loved before you learned how to be lovable. You were chosen before you knew there was a path to walk. You were whole before the world handed you its conditions. And now you remember. The remembering does not require effort. It requires surrender. Not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of illusion. Let go of who you thought you needed to be. Let go of the image you were taught to project. Let go of the resistance to your own beauty. You are not here to fit in. You are here to shine so fully that others remember they are light too. And from that light, life begins to move with you. not against you, not around you, but with you, as if every step you take is matched by a divine response, as if the wind knows your name, as if the stars lean in when you speak, because they do, because you are not separate from any of it. And now, as the light of this journey gathers like the final warmth of a setting sun, you stand not at the end, but at a beginning, ancient, eternal, and entirely your own. Not the kind of beginning the world praises with banners and milestones, but the sacred kind, the quiet return to what never left. The soul does not count time in years, but in awakenings. And you, beloved soul, have remembered. You have remembered that your worth is not contingent, your beauty is not borrowed, your truth is not on trial. You have remembered that presence is power, that love is not something you must seek, but something you are. You have remembered that the awareness within you is not limited by your name, your past, or your form. It is vast, it is timeless, it is holy. You do not need to be anything more than you are to be complete. That lie has exhausted itself in your being. You no longer chase the reflection in the water you drink deeply from the stillness. You no longer barter your peace for applause. You have found a deeper music, a quieter song, one that plays not on stages but in the center of your chest, in your breath, in your being. You see now that there was never a separation, only a forgetting. And in this sacred remembering, everything has changed even though nothing needed to. You are not ascending into something new. You are dissolving into what has always been. You are not rising above life. You are sinking fully into it. The leaves, the laughter, the silence between words, they have all become sacred again. And so you walk not with urgency, but with reverence. Each step a prayer, each moment an offering. You no longer need to convince life to bless you because you realize life is made of blessing. Every breath is an answer. Every stillness is a sanctuary. Every ache is a doorway to deeper love. You are no longer a seeker, you are a seer. You are no longer waiting, you are allowing. You are no longer lost, you are home. You've tasted the truth that cannot be unlearned, the presence that cannot be earned, the light that cannot be extinguished. And now you know. All things are not only possible, they are already unfolding perfectly through the intelligence that breathes through you, walks with you, and never left you not for a single heartbeat. This is not the end. This is the awakening. And in this awakening, you are not becoming anything. You are remembering everything. So walk now with open hands. Speak now with a quiet heart. Rest now in the holy center of your own being. And remember, always, all things are possible with universal awareness. And that awareness is you.